Well, Jarrett is a little bit like, yeah.
Welcome, Tom and Dr. Jarrett. We're so excited to have you on the Central Middle School podcast. Could you each introduce yourselves and tell us a little about what you do in your current roles?
Sure. Hello, everybody. I'm Tom Murray. I am in my current role as Director of Innovation for Future Ready Schools, which is a national group. We get to work in all 50 states across the board. Prior to that, I served in a school district, a great one just like yours. I taught elementary school. I taught middle school. I was a middle school principal. I was an elementary principal. Then I worked at district office and oversaw high school programs and did all that before moving to work out of Washington, D.C. And what an honor it is to be on your podcast.
All right, I'm Joe Jarrett. I'm the Director of Digital Learning for the school district. So that means make sure teachers know how to use and students know how to use all the technology for instruction that we have access to. Before that, I was a teacher in the district, taught a lot of different things. I taught elementary, middle school, and high school. I actually did teach at Central Middle School the last 3 years of my teaching career, and been at the BOE for the last 6 years, first as a digital learning coach, like Ms. Cook, and then a digital learning coordinator, and now the director of digital learning.
Tom, as the Director of Innovation at Future Ready Schools, what trends or changes are you most excited about in education today?
Sure. Great question. I think one of the things I'm most excited about is watching first of all, I'm always excited about the great people working in our schools across the country and how hard they work for kids and just how they're so incredible and coming up with new and different ways to do things. But one of the things that I'm seeing across the country that I'm really excited with is really a move to redesign the high school experience and create different types of experiences through pathways. And they're called different things at different high schools. They're done in different ways throughout different districts, but essentially preparing students for opportunities post-graduation. Sometimes it's through certifications, but sometimes it's really just sparking their interest. And so they look different in different districts, as I just mentioned, but pathways. So if you have a student that's interested in healthcare or being a doctor, high school is helping them take some relevant coursework and then maybe even do some work in the field or some internships to help them understand this is something I want to do, or even learn this is something I don't want to do after high school and I thought I might. And so just watching schools and districts really tap into students' interests and passions and strengths is one thing. One other thing that I'll quickly mention because of the podcast and parts of the topic is I'm also super excited about many of the things happening with ed tech and some of the things around artificial intelligence. I think there's some guardrails we certainly need there, but some opportunities to really continue to put the world of information at each kid's fingertips and in each classroom to support teaching and learning. And so lots of great exciting it's an exciting time to be in education and lots of great things happening.
Dr. Jarrett, at Kansas City Public Schools, how do you define innovation and how is it shaping the future of education in your district?
Yeah, so we're really looking at innovation, kind of going off what Tom said as well, is shifting from that traditional school model to letting students experience the things that they're going to experience in a post-secondary world. So there's not too many, opportunities in the workforce or college where we're going to be doing worksheets. So giving kids that hands-on technology experience, building those pathways, as we kind of talked about, getting coding introduced to the classroom, getting creation introduced to the classroom, letting you all collaborate using the tools that we have access to kind of shift the way typical schooling's done to where it's really student-centered, students doing the work, doing the thinking, being independent learners, and being ready for whatever might come next after their high school experience.
Both of you work in educational innovation. Can you share how technology is currently transforming the classroom experience for both students and teachers?
Sure. So having been in 4 different public schools over the course of the past about week and a half across the country in different spots, one of the examples that I'm seeing, I just referenced artificial intelligence, and I'll use it from a teaching and learning end, from a teacher end, working with a number of teachers where they were using it as a thought partner. And so leveraging ChatGPT is one example, and there's plenty other pieces related to artificial intelligence. It's what this one teacher was teaching, and it was pinging it for ideas on activities in the classroom related to the level and related to what students were actually learning. And so, and working side by side with her, I was watching as she was prompting to come up with really engaging activities, helping it design some rubrics and activities, helping it design some things that parents could then use as well. But doing it as the teacher, leveraging her own creativity and her own ideas, but just using it as a thought partner. So it really took a great teacher, a teacher I put my children in her own classrooms, and made her even better. It just opened up some opportunities. And so that's one quick example of something that I saw that 5 or 6 years ago, nobody was talking about, that I think is really a new and different way. And I think the key for me with innovation is, does it change the outcome? Are we getting a better outcome? Because we can also be really innovative with no technology at all. As much as Dr. Joe and I love technology, you can also be innovative without tech. And so the outcome piece, is it changing is it making the outcome better? And that was just a case where a great teacher was using it as a thought partner to do something even better for kids, which I thought was pretty neat.
What are some of the most exciting tools or platforms you see being used effectively in schools today?
Yeah, so for us, it's really going to be those native iPad apps. So, we've transitioned from Chromebooks to iPads. So just giving students that kind of instant ability to, again, be creative, which is, one of our goals for all of our students, creating video, creating pictures, creating animation, all of that stuff, just a few clicks away is really kind of the biggest game changer that we have going on. And then kind of piggyback off of Tom's answer as well, that generative AI on the teacher side. I'm still not convinced on the student side so much, but on that teacher side, allowing to just enhance those lessons that much more quickly and efficiently, and kind of taking what they already have to that next level is also going to be great for us.
Yeah, and I'd agree with that. Let me just piggyback on that example. When you look at the research behind effective use of ed tech, multiple studies really boil it down to anything that helps us explore, design, or create. And as he was just sharing, how many times did he just mention creation about apps and the great things? Those are deeper levels of learning. And so I completely agree. And so any app that helps kids explore, design, create is certainly going to be something that I think is going to support learning at a deeper level.
What role do teachers play in innovation, and how can they be empowered to try new things in their classroom without feeling overwhelmed?
Yeah, so they play a giant role. I mean, it's their classroom, so they're the ones that are kind of, ushering in whatever that instruction looks like and planning their lessons. So they are really kind of the ringleader of the innovation circus, if you will. As far as obstacles, I mean, just the biggest obstacle I think would be training. So getting in front of them so they, can know what to do, but also just giving them the freedom and letting them know, hey, it's okay to go try these things. There might be some, failures. There might be some learning that takes place on what you try to implement, but giving them that freedom to be able to experiment and go out and innovate in a space to where they can truly innovate.
Yeah, and I love that response for sure. The teachers are the students are the heart and soul of the classroom, and the teachers right alongside that. But I'll also acknowledge and recognize that teachers have a lot on their plates. And I've never walked into a building where teachers are walking around saying, like, give us more to do because we don't have enough on our plates. I've never, ever seen that. And so, it's recognizing that. And I think a key piece then is, how can ed tech and how can things that we're doing differently support them, even from an efficiency end, things that will save time, to then support their ability to use that time differently with other students that are in need in that way. And so, a shout out to anybody that's listening that is in a classroom teaching and learning or doing the teaching every day. A shout out to their incredible work and just the diligence in which they support kids.
Tom, Future Ready Schools has a fantastic framework that helps schools prepare students for success in a rapidly changing world. Can you talk about how schools can begin implementing the Future Ready framework in their own community?
Sure. That's a great question. Thank you so much for asking that. We take a lot of pride in the Future Ready Schools framework. The Future Ready framework is an evidence-based or research-based tool signed off by the U.S. Department of Education. There's a lot of research behind it. And essentially, they're the big bucket areas that schools have to work on for transformation to happen, but recognizing they're all interconnected. We use the phrase gears because if you think about anything mechanical, gears don't stand alone. They operate with other things. And so we're really intentional in that language. And so just to give you a couple glimpses of it, the Future Ready framework on the outside has leadership and school culture and inclusive school culture put together. That's the foundation of everything. You can have all the technology that you want in the world, but without an environment where people want to be, kids want to be, right, it's going to be pretty irrelevant, right? And so that culture piece is super important. Then the gears to hit them really quickly: curriculum instruction and assessment, that's the teaching and learning side; personalized professional learning, that's the support we give teachers, that conduit for change; budget and resources, it's helping everybody make sure that what we're doing is sustainable long term; community partnerships, how do we engage parents, how do we engage businesses, how do we engage folks throughout our community; data and privacy, making sure that there's no room for error there when it comes to student privacy in terms of any of their data; taking a look at the use of space and time, how we use time differently, how our learning spaces really matter, and the notion of robust infrastructure too. And that's something that your district's done a lot with, and all these areas for sure. But making sure the connectivity's there, and the device, the access, and the opportunity are there as well. And I just kind of rattled all of those off because they're all interconnected as well. If we're shifting things from a teaching and learning end, we have to be asking questions. How do we impact our community? What's the work we need to do our community? What's the professional learning that our teachers need? What's the data and privacy pieces we need to make sure that's on our radar? Do our learning spaces need to shift? If so, how? What are the budget and resources? How do we make sure this shift is going to be sustainable? And so it really provides, you asked how districts are using it. It provides a lens as districts leverage different initiatives to be able to ask a lot of questions to make sure that they're not just focused on a couple of those areas, and something like privacy isn't on the radar, or something like community partnerships isn't on the radar, because that's when things tend to really fall apart. And so schools are using it for a sustainability end. Some schools are using it with AI, artificial intelligence, to ask questions in all those different areas as they implement certain things. So lots of practical uses for it too.
Dr. Jarrett, every innovation effect has its challenges. What are some of the biggest hurdles you faced while implementing new initiative at Kansas City Public Schools, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, so one of the obstacles that comes along with just any change would be change in and of itself. So, people kind of like doing the thing that they've been doing. So anytime we're trying to introduce something new, getting that buy-in is kind of one of the first big obstacles you have to overcome. And we overcome that by just showing, the impact of what this technology could do, what these new initiatives could do, the impact on students, the impact on that could potentially happen on achievement, and really just kind of selling, what we're trying to change, what we're trying to aspire to. The other big one, which I kind of spoke to earlier as well, is just getting that training. So everything that you see your teachers use throughout the course of the day, even from just taking attendance, entering grades in Infinite Campus, to using StudySync, to using Reveal, to using ST Math, they have to learn how to use those. And, the iPads themselves are a transition from what they've been typically using. So getting in front of teachers for that training is probably one of the biggest obstacles that we have. We overcome that by offering just about as many training opportunities as we can in as many different ways as we can. So teachers have the ability to do training outside of the school day using Digital Learning Roadmap, which is asynchronous PD opportunities where they could get certifications in these different areas. You might have seen this in your building a few weeks ago, like throughout the entire day, where we actually will roll, the whole team will come into a building, stay there for half a day or a whole day, to where teachers can come to us on their plan time, on their PLC time, to get that training they need. Or, before school, after school, some of those typical PD models, or those days where you all get to stay home, we have PD as well for teachers throughout the day for that. So just really meeting them wherever they are to make sure that they're equipped to use the tools that we want them to use and start being innovative.
How can innovation better support student voice and choice in their learning experience?
Yeah, I love that question, because for us, students are the heart of what we do. Students should be the heart of all of our decision making. And I also know some of the great work that's happening in your school district that also supports students in their voice. When I look at it, ultimately, one of our goals is agency, meaning how do we help students be confident in their voice, be confident in making decisions, be confident when they need to speak up when something's not right, or speak up that they want to do something a little bit differently. When I think about it at its most basic end, and this is not a new concept, but one of the things from an educational technology end that it really empowers around student voice. If I think back to when I was teaching middle school, where I was teaching elementary school, and even time at the high school, in a traditional model, if I'm going to stand in front of a classroom, and we can certainly do that as teachers, and I'm going to certainly do things at whole group at times, but in a traditional model, if there's certain things, if I'm testing for understanding, if I ask a question to the group and 4 or 5 hands go up, and I choose one student and the student gets it right, and let's say I had 25 students in the classroom and I just chose one, I knew 4% of what the room was thinking. And sometimes as the teacher, I was like, yes, they're with me. They got this, right? But I knew 4% of what the room was thinking. Now, leveraging tools, and you're not going to do this for every question every day. It would become really repetitive or really old. But on certain things, if I want to see if they're with me, I would have the opportunity to leverage a tool to get the responses from, say, all 25 kids or whatever that looks like, that can instantly graph some data, or we can see stuff. So I can see, do I need to reteach this? Are people really with me who might not be? And so that's something that EdTech's allowed for a long, long time. That really helps from a teaching and learning end, the ability to leverage that student voice to give the quietest voice in the room. My daughter is somebody that is super smart, but put her in a room with a whole bunch of other middle school kids or high school kids now, and like she struggles a little bit putting her hand up and sharing. And you know what? That's okay. That's who she is. But if they never use certain tools or other techniques, she might not talk a whole lot, but she's a brilliant kid. And so it gives people in the room a different way to share their ideas, to share their thoughts. And then I would also say, and it also gives, from a really collaborative end, the ability to do that as well with other students. Now, using my daughter as an example, she knows there's going to be times in life she's got to figure out it. She's got to put her hand up. She's got to include that voice. But it helps that kind of next step of making sure her voice is heard, even if in that environment, for whatever reason, she wasn't as comfortable sharing. And I think that student voice piece is super, super important. Working with teachers last week, we were having a conversation on student voice, and we were talking about, I'll go to the gear of learning spaces, the use of space and time that I just referenced. And a simple way was pulling students together, and the teacher said, all right, if you became the teacher in this classroom tomorrow, as you look around our learning space, what would you change and why? And sometimes it's just asking the question and then really listening to understand and not just listening to respond. And so for our students that may be listening, your voice matters and your thoughts are really important, whether you're a first grader or you're graduating next spring or next summer. So encourage you to use that voice there as well. Great question.
Are there specific strategies or examples where students are taking more ownership of their education?
Yeah, I think that's kind of the direction we're going. So kind of going off your last question as well, Tom very covered student voice, but also that student choice piece, I think, plays into this, where we have a lot of tools accessible to our students. Our goal for our teachers is to start allowing students to choose those tools and what fits them best and how they want to show their learning. So again, the goal is always going to be, we want all of you to become completely independent learners, to where you can go on and just be self-sustaining and learn all the things you want to learn on your own. And that first piece of that is allowing you to explore things your own way. So through task menus, hopefully you're seeing some of your teachers doing, or just providing you the goal for the project or the framework for the project, then allowing you to find your own route to getting there, and just giving you the rubric. That's really what we're looking for, as far as providing that student choice and making it to where you all are kind of the curators of your own knowledge and your own journey to whatever that product's going to be.
With all the changes happening in technology and education, how do we ensure students are prepared for careers and roles that might not even exist yet?
So I love that question. And I think it actually ties to one of the first things that I talked about, that I'm seeing a lot of the changes around our country when it comes to opportunities for students. I really like the ending of your question there on things that they might not know of. And one of the things I think schools do pretty well and are continuing to do well and can expand on are helping students understand a world that they've never experienced, helping students understand careers outside of their own. I was working with a district recently, and even at their elementary level, they were using something called the RIASEC framework that's been around for a really long time, that helps kids discover who they are. In RIASEC, for instance, the A is artistic. And so what they do is they help students understand, what does that look like? Well, what do people that are artistic enjoy? And then turning that to, okay, in our world, what do jobs that people that are artistic have? What is a graphic designer? And studying a graphic designer, what does that look like? And so helping students understand who they are, tying their interest and passions and strengths to then the world of work. And then in a lot of districts, as I mentioned, as they shift opportunities and leverage some pathways or different opportunities for students, helping them try some things. Some students might be in high school saying, I really want to be a nurse, or I really want to be a doctor. And then they realize, like, oh, I don't like blood and I can't be around blood. And all of a sudden it's okay. That idea might go away. That's a lot better to figure out earlier than go spend a whole bunch of money after school and realize that's not what you want to do in life, right? And so it gives them the opportunity to really follow their interests and passions, but then try some things out as well, dive a little bit deeper to ultimately decide what it is that they want to do, so that they can live life on their own terms.
Yeah, and another big piece of that is just making sure that you all have the skills, the transferable skills, that even though right now the job that you might have doesn't exist, the things that you need to do that job. So that you're critical thinking, that you're able to collaborate, that you're able to communicate, you're able to, adapt to problems, solve problems. So even though what you're applying that to right now may not be, what you end up doing, post college or after high school, those skills will still be used. No matter what your position, no matter what comes down, critical thinking is going to be important. Collaborating with team members and peers is going to be important. So making sure that those skills are baked into whatever's happening now will also prepare you for the future, even if that future job is something that doesn't exist at the moment.
Dr. Jarrett, I love your response there. I really do, because you're helping us as the world evolves, right? How are we preparing students for their future and that future that doesn't exist yet? And my quick reflection is, when I was in high school, there were no smartphones. There were no things called apps. That was not a thing, right? Yet how many people in my generation are currently designing apps, working for companies that support it in some way? They need the ability to change, the ability to unlearn and relearn, and the ability to collaborate with others. So as the world evolves, and who knows for your generation what that's going to look like, 10 years post your high school graduation or whatever that might be. And so, Dr. Jarrett, I wanted to plus one what you just shared, because I completely agree with that.
What skills should students be focused on developing?
Well, there we go. Yeah, those things I just mentioned. So we're kind of excuse me, we've somewhat adopted, at least on the digital learning team, the education taxonomy 4.0, whereas kind of going through and really saying, what do kids need right now to be successful later? So those things I was talking about, being able to solve problems, think critically, work with your peers, be able to get your thoughts out, communicate in a way where people will be receptive to what you're saying, grit, determination, all those things, overcoming obstacles. Those are all the things that, no matter, again, where you land, and no matter what, AI brings to the future and all these new technology and new innovations, you'll need those skills to be successful. And that's what we're hopefully instilling all of our students currently.
What advice would you give to school leaders who are just starting their journey toward innovation in education?
So one of the pieces I would add to that is really developing a fail forward mindset. Just the idea that things aren't going to go perfect. And every school and district leader I've ever worked with, they get that. They understand that. I know people like me tend to be perfectionists and like to have all their ducks in a row and everything to be perfect and everything to go as planned, but that's not reality. That's not how it works. And with innovation, you continue to iterate, you continue to learn. And a lot of times you plan things, you're about to roll something out and it doesn't work well. Well, how do we learn from that, pick up the pieces, and continue to move forward with it? Every time we fail, it's an opportunity to get up and to keep trying for those people that look for you to direction for direction. And so, I think that the idea around mindset is really important. I also think about from a leadership end, as you mentioned, because you asked about leaders, I would say really the importance of modeling. We can't expect our teachers to do things that we're not modeling ourselves. And so how, as school and district leaders, are we modeling the types of experiences that we want kids to see in the classroom? As a principal, how do we run our faculty meetings? Is it a direct reflection of what I'm asking for teachers to do? For a district level leaders, how do I run my in-service days, the professional learning that we're leading? Is it a model of what we're asking for teachers to do? If not, we have a problem, right? Because people see right through that. But if so, every opportunity that we lead something is a great opportunity to model the type of experiences we want our teachers to provide in the classroom. And so for school and district leaders, I see just the importance of really modeling and also modeling that mindset.
Yeah, and very much, just appreciating that it can be messy. So as we talked about already, just that room for failure, that room to let teachers experiment and know not everything's going to 100% go the way they want it to go. And I love what Tom said about principals being that instructional leader. So they should be able to show them these tools. I very much believe that we allow people to kind of say, I don't get technology. Technology is not my thing. We're really past that. Technology is so ubiquitous. It's so entangled into what we do on a daily basis that you need to show, your staff, your students as the instructional leader of the building, that you're going to sit down and learn how to do it. And, everybody else should be able to follow that example as well.
How can they create an environment where innovation can thrive?
So I think a lot of that is what Dr. Jarrett and I just shared. But I'll just go back to the importance of culture, the importance of relationships, and I think the one piece that I'll add to it quickly is innovation begins and ends with people. It's not about stuff. And sometimes I think we lose sight of that. A new device comes out, a new app comes out. We have to bring it back to the human side, the people side. And so I think recognizing that innovation really is about people and processes and pedagogy, and not getting that out of whack. And so not losing sight of the human side, the relationship side, really in anything that we do.
Yeah, and I think it also just, setting that expectation. So, if you expect teachers to be doing these novel things and doing new things and doing, these future ready aligned lessons and instruction, then they're more likely to do it, obviously, than if you just say, hey, go out and do whatever you want to do. So setting those expectations, and again, setting that climate and culture of the building for teachers to want to achieve that innovative instruction.
Looking ahead, what do you both think education would look like in the next 5 to 10 years?
That's a fascinating question, because we ask that kind of thing a lot. But if I go 5 years ago, that would have been pre-COVID, and that would have been something we couldn't have expected in the last 5 years. We are seeing a variety of other types of schools pop up. I just saw recently AI schools pop up, and I will tell you, part of it scares me because of what I was just talking about, the human side, the relation side. If that's not done well, this could be a really bad experience for kids. But we will see a continued challenge to the norm, challenge to the way it's kind of always been. I think with artificial intelligence and some of the tools that'll continue to come out, schools will have to absolutely continue to find, like, what are the guardrails? As Dr. Jarrett said earlier, there's certain things I would absolutely agree. I'm not so sure I want children doing that at that level. They still need to have a really good understanding before they use certain tools. And so I think as they move forward, I think we'll continue to see the tool AI explosion is very, very real. But I said at the end of the day, 5 or 10 years out, the best classrooms will still have educators that love and care about their kids, that focus on relationships, that focus on the skills that Dr. Jarrett mentioned earlier of problem solving, collaboration. What I really do hope, I'll go back to that pathway example yet again, is we continue to see schools, because we see that direction. There's a lot of state that was working in Washington, D.C. yesterday, even with the federal level. And it's also a bipartisan, both red and blue states really value the notion around CTE and pathways and all those pieces. I think we'll see more and more of that as people connect the high school experience, the schooling experience, to ultimately the workforce and helping kids get jobs down the road. I think we'll see even more of that.
Yeah, and I completely agree with all that. I see AI, I don't think it's going to create like these autonomous teacherless classrooms where, it's taught by some kind of AI robot or anything along those lines. But I think that it's going to have a, big impact on instruction going forward and how education looks. Don't know exactly how it's going to shake out, but it is going to have an impact. Hopefully, for the good. I do see pathways as that's what a lot of districts are going to be moving to. And I think that's going to play a bigger role as time goes on. As a philosophy major, I think I'm allowed to say this, but we don't need everybody just to go to college because it's like the thing you need to do, because then you end up with philosophy degrees. But actually preparing students for all the different, routes that you could take in a post-secondary world starts at the high school level. So really preparing kids for all the alternatives, not just college, but just, career paths as well. I think that's going to be kind of the biggest movement that we're going to see in the next 5 years.
Lastly, we like to ask our guests this fun question. If you could spend a day in any classroom anywhere in the world, where would it be and why?
That's a good question. Is it okay if I give 2 answers on that?
Yeah.
All right. So in one answer, I'm going to say, as a fly in the wall in my own children's classroom. So as the daddy, I can watch them and see how do they respond? How do they interact with people? How do they respect the teacher? What does that look like? Because that's not something I get to see. So that's kind of my father answer as a dad, right? But I would say I would love to think differently about it. I wish I could go back to my first day teaching when I was 21 years old, fresh out of college, teaching 4th grade, in all honesty, having no idea what I was doing. I wish I could sit in that classroom for a day, in part to really feel good about look how far I've come, but also really in part to remember as we support teachers how far I didn't start out as this perfect teacher that to be able to appreciate my support for teachers, to never forget where I came from.
Hey, can I give two answers too then? So first answer, not that deep. Hawaii. Just so I can be in Hawaii when the class is over and just go, hang out.
That's a more fun answer than both of mine, but that's all right. I agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, aside from that, I don't, know what classroom this would be, but just any classroom where I could see, I mean, kind of the whole topic of this entire podcast so far is truly innovative teaching. Just to see, if there was this hypothetical, like they reached the pinnacle of what a future ready classroom should be, seeing that, observing that, taking a whole bunch of notes to bring that back and seeing how we could replicate that.
Thank you for answering our questions.
Absolutely. And thanks for being such a great host, and thanks for having me on.
Y'all did great. Central Middle School Tech Team, rocking it.
Thanks again, gentlemen, for joining us. We really appreciate you guys coming in. All right, or joining us virtually. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Hey, it means so much to the kids. They actually, we put these on YouTube as well, so teachers can actually go back and share them with their classes to use it for classwork. So we're using Magic School, and they copy and paste the link into Magic School and come up with questions. Mm-hmm. Yep, we're good to go. Thank you, Jada.
That's great.
So that they can ask questions about what they've learned from both of you. So this goes on and on for some time. So we really appreciate the work you all are doing. We appreciate you all being guests, and come see us again. Come in person. Come hang out with us. We have a good time.
I appreciate y'all. Appreciate you. Hey, Joe, I just put a link in the chat about what I just referenced about the AI. It's like, it blew my mind when I saw it. I'm not saying it's all a great thing, but it's I think we're going to see a lot of that pop up in the next 5 years.
Oh, most definitely.
But take a look at that school in Austin, and there's nowhere in Florida. It's like all their academics in 2 hours, and then they do the rest through AI. Like through that, they're claiming like higher gains and higher all that stuff, and then the rest of the day is like building a business and doing all that stuff. So, a part of it, I'm like, oh, that's pretty darn cool, and part of it, I'm like, hold on a sec, let me investigate that.
Yeah, I'll let them knock it out for a couple of years, and then
yeah, right there with you, man. Well, good to see you both again. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah,
Thanks
likewise.
again. Have a good one, guys.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.